Hello everyone, it's me again. I am making this video as a warning. I'm trying to warn people about the dangers of communism. Communism has killed over 100 million people over the years, and it's just the threat that communism poses to the world is very real still. I mean, we got a group of communists and anarchists like Antifa and all that shit. They're running around physically assaulting people, and that whole punch a Nazi thing, they pretty much label anyone who isn't to the left of Bernie Sanders a Nazi. They're all like, fuck you fascists, fuck you fascists, fuck you fascists. The truth is that a lot of these guys probably aren't communists or even anarchists. They're just people that need a outlet for their frustrations. However, that does not mean they are not good foot soldiers for whatever charismatic leader happens to acquire them. I mean, the way you can cause a mass amount of destruction very quickly is simply by giving idiots permission to act stupid. And that's exactly what a lot of these left-wing commies do. And so do these anarchists. But the truth be told is, I mean, they could move, if they want anarchy, they could move to Somalia, for example, but they don't. They stay here. If they wanted communism, they're free to move to North Korea or Cuba. And they don't. Again, they don't. However, it's just totally what in itself is very telling. They don't really want a communist regime, most of them. They just want a permission to act stupid, violent, angry, and rowdy. They want to get together and yell, fuck you fascist, and just run amok and cause mass amounts of destruction. Now, November 4th. That was a false alarm. It could have been, trolls just trying to rile everybody up. But chances are it was basically Antifa trying to test the water, so to speak, to see how people would react. And there was no riot or anything like that. But a lot of very dangerous things have started out as a joke. And it's like cancer. There's 4 stages of cancer. 4. And the thing is that we are in stage 1 right now of the communist cancer, and we need to recognize it and deal with it before it gets more advanced. And if it does get more advanced, it could be very bloody. And don't let lack of imagination limit you, okay? People thought that the Civil War would never happen. In fact, there was a congressman who said that he would wipe up all the blood that would be shed with a handkerchief right before the American Civil War. And he is probably going to need a very big handkerchief. That being said, that's not the only case in history where that happened. I mean, 9/11, I never thought. I was 12 years old when 9/11 happened. I never would have guessed that something like that was possible. If they had made a movie about it, I probably would have thought that was a really stupid sci-fi movie or something like that. And my dad said something along the similar lines. People thought that, World War II wouldn't happen. And it did. Don't let lack of imagination limit you. It's anything like that can happen. And So I suggest you take it seriously. It's what we have here is a lot of misguided people in Antifa, and by any means, in groups like By Any Means Necessary and the new Black Panther Party. There are a lot of disenfranchised people that need an outlet for their anger, to get restitution for perceived wrongs and retribution for perceived wrongs. And granted, I think, maybe some of their grievances are real. But if you create, what we are doing is a tree has been planted, and that tree is not the tree of liberty, it's the tree of oppression. And when that tree is growing, okay, and right now it may be just like a little twig sticking out of the ground that can be easily plucked out. But the problem is that if you go out into the woods, every, like a national park or something, go to Yosemite, for example, with those big giant sequoias. Every one of those giant sequoias was, even if it was 2,000 or 3,000 years ago, was at one time a little twig sticking out of the ground with a few leaves on it. And you're not going to be able to pull one of those suckers out. Trust me. Even a tree that's not nearly as big, believe me, I've been hiking a bunch of times. I see a bunch of trees that I couldn't pluck out. In fact, most of them. Some of them aren't even half grown, and I can't even pluck them out. In fact, some of probably the strongest man in the world, professional strongmen, could not pluck them out. But anyway, communism killed about 100 million people. Look at what Mao Zedong did. Look at what Joseph Stalin did. Look at what Kim Il-sung did. Look at what Pol Pot did. People, this threat is real. And it is a clear and present danger to our society. And we cannot allow it to take hold. Because they like to dress themselves up in layers of, tolerance and things like that. All these social justice warriors. They are just self-righteous, and they won't listen to reason. They just want an excuse, just some excuse to be angry, to be violent, and to complain. You can't reason with somebody like that. I hope it doesn't come to a civil war, but I'm saying it might. And I think we all need to be prepared for that. Because communism is a scourge. Sharia law is a scourge. Anarchy is a scourge. It will destroy our society. And no, it will not be better. And no, what's left behind will not be better. It will be a very terrifying place to live. People get on, the fascist societies like Nazi Germany and all that shit for the atrocities they committed. But the reality is communism has killed way more people, and I can guarantee you the Third Reich was a lot freer than communist Russia or communist China. It is just really crazy, and it's like it sounds great, like all this crap about equality and things like that, but the truth is you think that under communism, everybody gets a house. The truth, including the homeless people, but in reality, what happens in communism is they burn everybody's house down, so everybody's homeless. A homeless person's life is not going to get better because somebody else's house burns down. It doesn't work like that. In fact, his life might get a lot worse because he'd have more competition then. And communism just doesn't allow growth. It saps away the motivation to succeed. Because, as my father said shortly before he died, The problem with communism is that there's not a lot of motivation to work hard because you're not going to get ahead. The society won't allow it. Because he pointed out to like the welfare recipients, why should they go and get a job? The government's going to give them whatever they want, and so why would they go out and work for it? And to be fair, he's right. And I really think that, they say communism wasn't given a chance to succeed. It had a few decades. It had a chance. It had several chances, in fact. I mean, look at what happened in Russia. Communism in Eastern Europe. Communism failed. What happened in North Korea? Communism failed. In Cuba, communism failed. And all this stuff about having pictures of Che Guevara. I've seen, Black Panthers and even new Black Panthers posting up pictures of Che Guevara. That man was a racist and a warmonger at that. He said the Negro is lazy and indolent and spends all his money on frivolities and booze, in contrast to the European who is intelligent and forward-thinking. And, yeah, I'm pretty sure they knew. I'm not going to lie, I'm pretty sure Huey P. Newton was aware of that quote, and I'm pretty sure Bob Steele's is. But I just think that they cut it out, so to speak, to create an image of Che that pleased them, because that's what a lot of times people do. They like to, not just leftists, but a lot of times it's leftists, they just like to flail away at things that displease them. And it just doesn't get anywhere. Communism is a threat. It still is a threat. It's just appearing under a different designation. Instead of being something foreign out there, it's now a domestic problem. And what I think is going to happen is eventually Antifa and all these other leftist groups are going to up the stakes. That you will start seeing terrorist attacks. God forbid. I mean, bombings and shootings. I hope to God there's not. But there might be. And I'm all for freedom of speech. I think everybody has the right to their opinion. And I don't think anybody should be attacked for expressing their opinion. Granted, in this country we still have the right. We have the right, or we should have the right, to defend ourselves. However, political correctness is eroding that. And, I mean, you have people going to jail for, shooting burglars who are breaking into their houses, or people trying to steal their cars, hurt. I know a woman, personally, who almost went to prison for stabbing 3 kids who were trying to rape her daughter. And that's the absurdity of this situation. The government is trying to make us more dependent on them. And that's what communism is. It makes you dependent on the government. And it's like, because they have all the food, they have all the water, they have all this, pretty much everything. And so they want you to come to them so that they will be your slave master. That's what communism is. It's basically making everybody a slave, except for the commissar, the political commissars, because there's not going to be such a thing as equality in this world. There just isn't going to be equality. There never will be. And I know about this, that might make a few of you scream to high heaven. But for example, I'm never going to be a NFL lineman. I'm just not. Look at me. And nor will I ever get a job at other places like that sort of thing. And I'm just not. not going to be able to be an NFL lineman. I'm not going to be able to be a professional strongman, and that sort of thing. And nor will I ever be a great mathematician. I flunked math all through school. That being said, I have strengths, and I'm trying to play to those and try to make myself work in this world. I'm not going to lie. I've had my difficulties, but those are my business. And I feel that people, when they say they want equality, they usually, that's a nice thing to want. That's okay with me. I have no problem with that. I mean, I'll be honest here. I don't always care for Black Lives. I don't much care for Black Lives Matter. But I do see some of their grievances. But the problem is that the only real beef I have with Black Lives Matter is not just their destructive nature or anything like that, is that they only speak out for black victims of police brutality. I mean, they're white victims too. Don't get me wrong. Believe me, I've been harassed by the police before. And I'm not saying all cops are bad. I'm not. They protect us from a whole wall. They're a wall that keeps a whole lot of nasty shit back. Even the rotten bricks help keep that wall, keep that block up. A dam that keeps all that nasty shit away. But the reality is that we live in an entitlement society with victimhood and all that shit. And the fact is that we need to get away from that. We need to cease to be a society of victims and try to move on to the idea of being a society of survivors. And the reality is that it's going to take a lot of hard work and a lot of social reconstructing. I mean, the government wants you to call them for everything. They want to make you dependent on them. And that's just how slavery happens. You're dependent on your master for one reason or another. It could be for food, it could be for safety, it could be because you don't want him to unleash his wrath and kill you. But dependence is how people are kept enslaved, whether they know it or not, whether they like it or not. And that's about all I have to say on this issue. Like, comment, share, subscribe. This is my 20th video, and hopefully there will be many more. And also, if you like my video, or even if you don't like it, feel free to leave a donation. It's for a really good cause. For more information, check it out.